Ladies and gentlemen, what's this? We're talking about the Nintendo NX yet again? Yes indeed we are, because a slew of extra rumours have popped up in the last 24 hours or so, in other words, since I last recorded the video, so I figure it's only fair to keep you all apprised of this. Some of this stuff comes from Nintendo Gen, some from NeoGAF, some from an unofficial set of Nintendo forums known as nintendoforums.com, so we're going to be doing some analysis of this. So just to get everyone up to speed, if you didn't watch yesterday's video, the basic gist of it is that the software development kits have, of course, started to be distributed to various developers. These do include Ubisoft, and a supposed developer in Ubisoft has actually commented on this. We'll get into that in just a second. But other developers have actually been quoted in saying that the chips inside the machines are, quote, industry leading or cutting edge. And then there was a series of questions with people asking about this, because all of this, of course, originally started when the Wall Street Journal reported that the SDKs were going out. Now, as we all know, if you were to look at a company the size of, let's say, Ubisoft, for the sake of argument, it's not like there's 5 people working in the office. There are so many people, it's impossible to keep a complete lid on things. So it's probable that the actual development machines aren't actually going out yet, from what we're hearing. But the actual SDK is an indication of what you need to run the hardware, or run the software, is starting to go out. And basically Nintendo can start showing off the demos. So, as I mentioned, Crunchy G from Nintendo Forums has reported that the NX features very impressive hardware. In fact, he goes to say it's incredibly powerful. One demo with the kit is currently impossible to run, these are his words, on a 60 FPS on a current generation CPU and not a nearly top of the line graphics card. This, of course, is in reference to the PC development kits that they're running on. However, another chap from Nintendo Forums, he actually found it through NeoGAF, and I'll read the entire quote. "Hi, found the thread through NeoGAF. I am a mid-level-ish environmental artist/designer at Ubisoft, and that office did get the SDKs this week. I wasn't technically supposed to see it, but I was working late on Friday and managed to sneak a peek at other playing with the demos. Can't comment on the FPS specifically, in other words the frame rate. But both demos I saw were running fine on our relatively decked out machine. Unfortunately, he did not mention the specifications, so for example, we don't know if it's an i7, an i5, what graphics card, and so on and so forth. One of the demos particularly looked gorgeous, and the impressions around the office of the people are pleasantly surprised with this kind of focus on graphics from Nintendo. I'm not working on anything Nintendo related, and I cannot confirm anything else, but I agree with the processing power statements. It should be a little exciting, a little machine, and from what I can see, it should be very fun to develop for," end quote. I'm sure you've probably heard the rumours that AMD will be providing the chips for this system. And indeed, during the Q3 earnings, AMD did point out that it's widely rumoured that the next generation Nintendo console would feature their chips, and of course they can't go on record and tell us this, but they pretty much confirmed that they will be providing semi-custom efforts in 2016, and this was mentioned right after the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Unfortunately, things aren't 100% clear, because AMD are once again reported to be providing custom x86 SoCs for Apple, which is a really good contract, by the way, but they are popping up in 2017/18, and they're for iMacs. Now, one does not preclude the other, so just for the sake of argument, if they are producing for Apple, it doesn't mean that will preclude the fact that they're working for Nintendo, but it does help to muddy the rumour waters just a smidgen. Now, the final point I would like to make, and this somewhat reiterates what we were talking about a day or two ago regarding the pricing, there is a ceiling really on what customers are probably willing to pay. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not willing to go higher than that, but you're going to be appealing to a lot smaller audience, and they'll probably wait for the price to go down. So, for the sake of argument, $350, $400, if it's a really powerful system. For example, Nintendo could easily sell the idea to people that this is the best system in the history of mankind if they've got all of their ducks in a row. They've got a really powerful system. For example, let's just for the sake of argument say it's 2.5 T-flops, so 25%-ish more powerful than PlayStation 4, slightly over that actually, it's more around 30%, slightly rounding it up. It's got a more powerful CPU, it has a really good lineup of games, because let's face it, if it doesn't have a good lineup of games, who the hell's going to buy it? And we're talking for launch here, because you've got this situation where if you're the first to a new generation, people are going to give you the benefit of the doubt because they want those shiny graphics. So Sony and Microsoft had games like Rise, Son of Rome, and Killzone. I personally actually quite like both. I know that they did somewhat get slated, but I really like both of them, especially Killzone if I'm totally honest. But people are going to be happy with that because they're going to think, gee, these graphics are awesome and all that stuff. But the issue, of course, is when you're dealing with competitors which are already out and established and you're the new one in effectively an old generation. I guess technically Nintendo may be a generation and a half, so for example it could be kind of a Dreamcast-y situation where the Dreamcast wasn't as powerful as the PlayStation 2 for the sake of argument, but it was leagues above the PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn. It could be a situation like that, where it's kind of a halfway house between the PS4 and the PS5. But I think in many people's minds it's just going to be lumped in with the same generation, and therefore it's going to require a pretty good consolidated effort from Nintendo, A, from their first-party developers, and B, for them to actually work together with the bloody third-party developers. I don't need to talk to you about how Nintendo have treated third-party developers before. It's kind of shocking. You can Google it, particularly back in the NES era. There was a lot of threats from the Nintendo when it came to actually creating games for, let's say, the Sega's Master System. It was a bit messy, and they have improved over that over the last couple of years, in particular with the SDKs of being a lot friendlier to develop for. We all know about the N64, for example, and the microcode scenarios that happen with the N64, where the SDKs for the N64 sucked. Nintendo wouldn't release or give insight to developers when it came to microcode, so it was really a mess for developers to actually produce stuff. And worse, some studios actually had to go the extra mile if they wanted to create it, so there's that as well. There is a hell of a lot of options that we all know about that AMD could be producing. It may not be AMD, for all we know. It could be, I don't know, let's think. I mean, there's so many different bloody options, but for all we know, it could be something along the lines of Tegra from Nvidia. But I think the forerunner right now, the front runner, is AMD, just because. But hopefully we can get some answers soon. Most likely we're going to have to wait for an official announcement at E3, but hopefully we can get some leaks and rumours, or solid rumours, before that. Because let's face it, look how early the PlayStation 4 specifications leaked out and the Xbox One specifications leaked out. And they weren't 100% accurate, but they were pretty darn accurate. Especially when one considers just how early they were in comparison to the release or the official confirmation from either Sony or Microsoft. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you can do the likey, share everything, I would be extremely grateful. Thanks for watching it, if you've managed to stick all the way through. But for now, take care and have a great day. Bye.